Today we are going to be discussing why you should be getting your saw blades sharpened as opposed to trying to sharpen them yourself at home. Hi everybody, I'm Jim Dierdorf and this is Detroit DIY. Let's take a look at these blades. Most people who sharpen their saw blades at home use a diamond blade in their table saw per se. It's probably the best way if you're going to sharpen at home. And they build a jig, and the jig supports the blade, moves it off center so that they can grind the hook at the correct angle. However, you would have to have multiple jigs because this hook angle changes with every blade. So per se with this blade being a 60 tooth, this hook angle is going to be much less aggressive. I'm going to put a picture up for you to have a better look at that. Then as we move over to this 32 blade, you'll notice that the hook angle becomes more aggressive. The more positive the attitude is off center of the blade on the hook angle determines how aggressive the blade will cut. Less teeth, more aggressive cut. More teeth, less aggressive cut. So the 60 tooth blade being a finer cut is a less aggressive blade. It removes smaller pieces of wood as each tooth contacts, where with a 32 tooth blade you're going to remove more material. And even with your 40 and 50 tooth count blades, the hook angle is going to change. I'm going to put some diagrams up so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about with these hook angles. And the problem with it is if you try to grind these hook angles at home on your table saw, you're just kind of guessing at the angle. You might have it pretty good or think you have it pretty good, but it would take multiple jigs to be able to replicate these hook angles the way that they're supposed to be. When you take this blade in to get it sharpened, they put it in a machine that's fully adjustable, and they can get these hook angles right and exactly to what they're supposed to be every time they sharpen them. The next thing we want to talk about is the top bevel of the blade. I'm going to put up an image right now so that you can have a real close look at the top bevel. These top bevels are alternating from one blade to another blade. And the reason for that is to help it chip out the wood, reduce heat, and create a finer cut. Cross-cut blades may sometimes have a flat top. There will be no bevel on the top at all. And the reason for that is because they're ripping the wood. They're cutting along the grain of the wood, so it's an easier way to cut. When you're cross-cutting, it is a more difficult cut. Even though the blade is moving through less wood doing a cross cut than it is when you're doing a rip cut. A cross cut is a more difficult cut because it's cutting through the grain. It has to cut through clean, especially for woodworking projects and so on and so forth. That's why you would want a 60 tooth blade, is for that clean cross cut. A 60 tooth blade is never recommended for a rip cut. You would need to drop down to a 32. So now that we know that trying to sharpen a blade at home is nearly impossible to replicate the hook angles and the bevel angles, if you can even do the bevel angles at all at home, the bevel angle probably wouldn't get sharpened at all. Let's talk about money. This is a DeWalt 10-inch 60 tooth blade. Brand new, it would cost $21.50 plus tax. To get it sharpened and cleaned, $18. Not a huge savings, but it's enough, and if you have enough blades, it adds up. This is an Avante 10-inch 32 tooth blade. This blade was $23.49 brand new and $9.60 to sharpen. This is where your savings start to come in, is with your 32 tooth blades. The more of them you have to offset your 60 tooth blades, the better off you are. In the sharpening process, not only do they sharpen the hook and sharpen it on the correct angle, taking a closer look at them, you can see that all of the top bevels have been sharpened. I had in total 8 blades sharpened and cleaned. It was $111.60. To replace these blades would have been around $200. So I saved myself almost $80 in getting these blades sharpened. That's a significant savings. Let's go ahead and make some cuts with a brand new blade, and we're going to compare it to one of these sharpened ones. I have in my miter saw a brand new Diablo 60 tooth blade for cross cutting, and what we have here is a piece of select pine. So we're going to go ahead and just make us a cross cut through this. We're going to change the blade out to an Avante 60 tooth that's just been sharpened, and we're going to make a cut and we're going to see how clean they are. So first, let's take a look at this brand new blade. As you can see, there's a little bit of splintering, not much. There is no tear out to speak of. There's a little bit, it may be hard to see, but there is a little bit of tear out on the back side. Obviously the front side is going to be fine because that's what the blade is cutting through and not coming out of. I now have a freshly sharpened 60 tooth Avante blade in the saw. Before we make this cut, let's talk about service life for a minute. A brand new saw blade should cut for anywhere between 160 and 200 hours, depending on the type of wood that you're cutting. Not too many manufacturers are going to talk about that. A sharpened blade should give you the same service as a new blade. You should get that 160 to 200 hours, depending on the type of material you're cutting. Obviously oaks and harder woods are going to be a little harder on the blade, but then on the other hand, pines and stuff like that are very sappy, so they can also make the blade dirty and not want to cut well. So you have to remember to clean your blades on a regular basis with a product like Simple Green or something like that. Just throw them in like an oil change tub, squirt them down with Simple Green, scrub them a little bit with a nylon brush and get that sap off and get them cutting good again. Let's go ahead and make this cut. We got to plug it in. Now let's take a look at the sharpened blade. This is what we had with the brand new blade. This is what we have with the sharpened blade. It is very clean and there's no problems with this cut at all. So it performs just as well as a new blade. The only other thing I want to say is I was surprised to hear when he was going through my blades and he saw the DeWalt's and he picked up the Avante, and he says that this is the better blade. This has a better carbide than the DeWalt blade. I was kind of surprised by that. These are $1 or $2 more than the DeWalt blades, but I kind of figured that the DeWalt would be a good high quality blade and was a little surprised to find out that the Avante was even of more high quality. So if you want to save yourself some money and have good performing blades, take them out, get them sharpened. Most places that sharpen them will guarantee their work, so that if you bring the blade back and it does not cut as good as a new blade, you can bring it back and they will do it again at no charge to you. So there's comfort in knowing that if you take them to get them sharpened, you should be handed back basically a brand new blade. If you'd like to get an amazing shirt like this, I've put a link down in the description to our store. You can get sweatshirts, t-shirts, all kinds of cool stuff. I'd greatly appreciate it if you'd check it out. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would greatly appreciate it if you would consider doing so. And if you enjoyed yourself, go ahead and hit that like button. That's all we got for this time. And remember, always respect the power of your power tools. We'll see you soon.